What's up, everybody? We're here for the eighth edition of Queen City Reds. Had some vacation last week, so we weren't able to join you last week, but we're back this week. The Reds are going into the All-Star break. Paul, what's up?
How's it going?
Doing good. We got the home run derby tonight. We got Elly De La
Mm.
Cruz in the All-Star game. We got Hunter Green in the All-Star game. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, just to start off, the Reds went 5-2 last week. I think when you and I talked 2 weeks ago, we said um, I guess it was last week. We talked last week. We were off, I guess, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, but when we talked last week, you're coming off the sweep of the Tigers, are getting swept against the Tigers. And you said, I think what we said is 4-3, I guess you would take, but we really needed to go 5-2 at least.
Yep.
And the Reds went 5-2. So
Yep.
I'll take it. I won't be greedy. You would have liked them to get the last game with Lodolo on the mound yesterday, but didn't happen. But just what are your thoughts overall on the week going into the All-Star break?
Yeah. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do, just like we said. That's really what they needed to do. They won both series. So it gives you some great momentum heading the All-Star break. I'm really happy with what they did. Offense was chugging along and pitching was pretty solid overall. So, good to see that when you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, it's always a good feeling.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think people are pointing out that they went 5-5 against the teams that they should beat, but when you get swept, it's going to be hard to overcome
Yeah.
that. So they went 5-2 after getting swept against the Tigers. Obviously, ideally you don't get swept against the Tigers, but they did, and then they rebounded back pretty decently. And the offense started to play a little bit better, which is good to see. And a big reason why is Rece Hinds. We talked about last week. We said maybe Rece Hinds will just get lucky. Not lucky, not lucky. We just said maybe he'll get hot and just run into a couple balls, you know? Um, I was joking that Santiago Espinal can't even hit it over guys' heads. He clearly can hit it over guys' heads now because
Yeah.
he's hitting home runs. But the week that
Uh,
was, Rece Hinds, National League Player of the Week, he was named today. Just an incredible week. I mean, I think he had 9 extra base hits in his first 6 games, which
yeah.
nobody ever in Major League Baseball has done. I mean, he's hitting balls that you've never seen. Like he's already in the top 10 for longest home runs in Great American Ballpark history. It's truly incredible. And again, he's a big reason the Reds went 5-2. You come
Right.
into this series and the offense was struggling like no other against the Tigers and the
Hmm.
Yankees. They hit some home runs. And then Rece Hinds just absolutely explodes.
Yeah.
Does exactly what we were talking about. We thought
Right.
maybe he'll run into a couple games, and he just absolutely exploded.
Yeah.
Just what are your thoughts on Rece Hinds' crazy week?
I mean, just nuts. I don't know. I'm sure somebody probably has, but to win player of the week, your first week in the league, that's insane. And I'm sure it wasn't even a question. He had an absolutely ridiculous week. Um, and like it just brought him. I know a couple episodes ago I kind of mentioned like how it didn't seem like players were as excited as last year when all those guys came up, and it just kind of seems like his offensive production has really put a jolt into him. At least that's what it seemed like to me. And being able to do that just by hitting the ball, shoot, I'll take that. I'll take that week. Not even close to that week every time, let alone that week.
Yeah, and he's been playing good defensively, which he's not
Hmm.
necessarily known for a great defender.
Right.
He played third base up until about 2 years ago and was getting hurt a lot, and the Reds moved him to right field. I saw something that he already has a higher WAR than Jeimer Candelario on the season, which is
Whoa.
just absolutely insane.
Wow.
I mean, Candelario, you're talking about a guy with 16 home runs,
Mhm.
and Rece Hinds has had already more of an impact, which is just insane. It just shows you how
That's
ridiculous
crazy.
that week is. His defense has been good. His base running, he's fast for a big guy. I mean, really
Hmm.
fast, and just an unbelievable week. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I mean, I'm as big of a prospect fan as anybody, and I was even like, man, he's going to strike out a ton, and
Right.
he proved everybody wrong. And I think obviously he's not going to keep this up for the rest of the year, but if he can just be halfway decent and just give the Reds some pop, because one of the things this lineup is missing is pop, just
Oh
a
yeah.
big power hitter in the lineup.
Oh yeah.
So if he can just be halfway like that the
Mhm.
rest of the year, he's going to be a mainstay in the lineup and he's going to
Oh
be up
heck
here for
yeah.
the rest of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does the rest
I
of the
know.
year for sure.
I'm excited. It makes me excited. It really does to see, especially with all the injuries and everything, to have a guy come up that, not very many people were expecting to do very much. So if he can just, like you said, half that's a big boost to the offense.
Yeah, and it's like this fan base has been waiting for something to get excited about. Like
Mhm.
they called up Jacob Hurtubise, he was okay for a couple weeks and then just stopped hitting. Blake Dunn hasn't hit at all.
No.
Levi Jordan had one good game and they sent him right back down. Levon Soto hasn't really got much of a chance to play. Edwin Rios has been terrible. Um, nobody has seemed to come up, and I guess you could argue Austin Wins has come up and played
Yep.
above average, but he's not playing every day.
Right.
Even though Elly Marte has come up and really struggled. So it just
Mhm.
seems like the Reds they've been begging somebody to come up and just play above average.
Yep.
Just play like above average for a week. And that's exactly what Rece Hinds did. And like you said, it's energized the fan base. It's given everybody something excited about coming out of the All-Star break.
Yep.
So just a phenomenal week. I think I know for myself, I'll always remember that week as a Reds
Oh
fan.
yeah.
I don't want to compare the guy to Aquino. I know a lot of people on X are doing that. But you always remember when guys go on crazy stretches
Yeah,
like that. And the week Rece Hinds just had is one of those stretches. So
for sure.
really awesome stuff for Rece Hinds. One thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. Nick Lodolo hasn't looked his best in two starts, but I will preface it with the first game he came back, he was dealing. They had a rain delay. He came back out and just really struggled. So I'm sure the rain delay affected him. I think he even said that post game.
Mhm.
Yesterday, again, he was dealing. I didn't think he gave up a hit. And then the fifth inning, he came out and just the wheels came off. He was looking at
Mhm.
his blister kind of on the mound. He was kind of looking at
Yeah.
his finger. I'm not sure if there was something there. He denied it post game, but I'm sure that's bothering him a little bit. But anything you've seen with Lodolo or do you have any concerns? Or you just think he's just working to get back? Or what are your thoughts on Lodolo since he's been back?
Yeah, especially like you said, the first game kind of write it off a little bit just because the rain delay. I think that was 100% it. But yesterday, watching, I mean, he looked incredible, and then fifth inning gives up a walk, gives up a hit, walk, which is fine. That's gonna happen. But it was like he didn't battle back like we've seen.
He got pressed. The one ball should have been strike three. That might have probably
Right,
gotten his head a little bit.
right. Yeah, and like you, I kind of do wonder if even if there wasn't actually anything there on his finger, he was definitely concerned by it. I mean, he was messing with it, so clearly his head wasn't fully in it as far as focusing on the pitch. He was concerned about his finger, and I think, and it's from when he had the blister before the game that he pitched with it, he didn't have as good a control either. And then yesterday in the fifth, he kind of lost his control there when he started messing around with his finger, I felt like. So I know he said there wasn't anything to it, but it's kind of hard to say there wasn't when that happens.
Yeah, I think he was downplaying it. I mean, he kind of mentioned it wasn't affecting him pitching, but he also mentioned like there's dead skin around it and
Yeah,
whatnot, which tells you he was clearly thinking about it.
right.
I think the All-Star break's coming at a perfect time
Yep.
for him. Get the rest, don't throw a baseball,
Yeah.
and just let that thing heal.
I don't have concerns with him. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just a couple tough starts. And he'll come back after the All-Star break fully healed and be good to go, I think.
Yeah, and we're talking about tough starts, and he gave up the first time I think 4 runs maybe, and
Right.
yesterday 4 2/3 and 2 runs. So if that's your bad
Yeah.
start, like that's Nick Lodolo. He's just
Right.
awesome. So um, I'm with you. I'm not too concerned about it, but just something to monitor there.
Right.
Cam Collier played in the futures game. Rhett Lowder also played in the futures game. Rhett Lowder has struggled this year. I have his stats up here just to pull him up. He dominated in Dayton, and then he got called up to Chattanooga. He's really struggled in Chattanooga. Let me see the difference here. Since he's been called up to Chattanooga, he's pitched 11 games. He has a um, teams are hitting 319 against him. He's got a 6.52 ERA. So not great. He's had some weird outings where he's just gotten rocked, and then he's had some outings where he's been pretty solid. I don't really know what to read into that. I think I still have all the faith in Rhett Lowder. He didn't give up a run in the futures game. Good stuff for Rhett Lowder. And then Cam Collier started out the season just absolutely on fire. The thing about Cam Collier, he's still 19 years old, which people forget. He was the first round draft pick 2 years ago, out of high school. I think he's supposed to be a senior in high school this year, or last year, maybe. This is supposed to be his rookie year. And he started out on fire. He struggled a little bit of late. He still has 13 home runs. He's shown a ton of power in a park that's hard to hit home runs in. He won the Futures Game MVP, which is awesome. He hit a home run in the Futures Game.
That's sweet.
It's just awesome to see. I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add on those two, but regardless,
No,
it's
I
all
was just gonna ask about Rhett Lowder. If you've seen any of his games, like is he mostly just getting rocked or like hit apart, or is he? I don't
yeah,
know. Is he losing control or?
he has a lot of control, which is interesting. And unlike a lot of the other
Right.
Reds prospects like Connor Phillips, who's walking a ton of guys,
Yeah.
or Chase Petty can struggle with command from time to time. He has a lot of control. So sometimes he's just getting hit. I mean, I just said average teams are hitting
Right.
what 321 against him, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's
One thing when I interviewed, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but the guy who announces for Dayton and he's like director
oh
of
yeah.
media relations, he kind of said something that I never really heard before, because you hear Rhett Lowder, like seventh pick, like just going to be a stud and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
He said that he doesn't really have one pitch that just is like absolutely unbelievable. He
Hmm.
said he's a great
I do
pitcher.
remember hearing that
And he
from you.
said he's very smart on the mound. He's knows when to throw which pitch. But it caught my attention a little bit that it doesn't seem
Hmm.
like he just has nasty stuff.
Okay.
Which I'm sure once you get promoted, everyone kind of says once you get to double A, it's kind of like, okay, guys in double A can be possible major leaguers.
Yeah.
High A is what it is. Low A is kind of like take it with a grain of salt. Double A,
Yeah.
it kind of gets real in a bit. I'm sure it's just adjustments. I think he's going to
Right.
get better and better. I think the expectations on him were so high. Like people were talking about him possibly being ready at the end of this year. Luckily, the Reds pitching has been so good that they don't even need him anytime soon so far, knock on wood. Um, so nothing's really stuck out that I've seen. I haven't watched a bunch of full games. I usually go and watch the highlights after the fact.
Right.
But it just seems like he's getting hit around a little. But I think with a guy like him, he's just going to get better and better. And same with Collier. I mean, Collier's 19 years old.
Right.
It's just ridiculous. So you just got to be patient with guys like that and let them develop. Don't rush them.
Right.
You're not trying to get them up in the majors when they're 21. People
No.
aren't Elly De La Cruz's. That's
Right.
not reality. So let them develop. I think it'll be fine. Yeah. Anything else to add on any of those two?
No, just the what you just said about Ellie. I think it is. I catch myself sometimes about like, especially after last year, we have all these young guys coming up. So then you expect these prospects. You're like, wow, they stink because they're not in double triple A major leagues this year. It's like actually they're still doing just fine. It's not normal for
Yeah.
somebody
I
to
mean,
come up that early.
I think the average age in double A is like 24 or something, which is
Right.
crazy to think
That's
about. I mean,
that is crazy. Like, so I think that and I know on the X app, people are probably the same way about overreacting, but I know I've caught myself a couple times just looking at your stats and stuff like, man, he's struggling. What's going on? But it's like, they're young kids. They got time. There's plenty of time. And so, but yeah, it's awesome that Collier won the MVP. That's really cool.
yeah, super cool for him. Super cool for the Reds. On the same topic, let's go to the MLB draft. The Reds drafted another pitcher last night from Wake Forest, just like Rhett Lowder. Number 2 overall pick. Everybody was expecting them to go Charlie Condon after Bazana went 1 to the Guardians. And the Reds took an arm guy who can throw 100 mph. He has a nasty slider. He had some home run issues in college, struck out a million dudes. Listen, I'll say one thing before I send it over to you, but the reaction was crazy last night, is what I'll say. I wanted Condon, but I'll be honest, like I don't watch a ton of college baseball. I like Condon just sounds exciting. It's just exciting
Right.
to have a guy who can just hit bombs all over. But if you're being honest and like after the fact, like I talked myself in, like the Reds cannot sign pitchers. Nobody wants to come and pitch in Great American Ballpark.
Mm-mm.
And if you can get a guy that you think is that good and you think you can develop him, I'm all for going to take the arm. Like the outrage last night over not taking Charlie Conlon, like I don't think 90% of the people had probably seen Chase Burns throw one pitch. And the way like MLB draft works out is like it's not like the NFL draft where these guys are like just great, 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 great. It's like half the top 10, it might be a bust.
Right.
Which in the Reds have been had a pretty good track record with first rounders. So
Mhm.
I like to pick. If you would have asked me it before, I would have said I would have liked Condon or Bazana, but I'm completely fine with it. I have faith in the front office, which I know a lot of people don't. I do. What are your thoughts on the pick?
Yeah, I think kind of along with you at first, just because like you, I don't watch college baseball really. If I do, it's highlights really. Um, and so I was just following what all the experts were saying, about what they expected to happen. So I was really on board with whoever the Guardians didn't pick between Bazana and Condon. And so at first I was like, what the heck, what are we doing? But then like reeled it back pretty quickly. Like, okay, this guy's clearly the best pitcher available. Um, he was probably going next anyways to the Rockies. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the pick at all. I think, personally, I probably would have liked a bat a little better, but then, like you said, it's hard to get a good pitcher to come to Cincinnati.
Way easier
And
to sign a bat than it is a good pitcher.
right,
Yeah.
right. And as we've seen this year, certain guys might not work out, like a Graham Ashcraft situation where he's just not as good as what we thought he was going to be. Maybe he will
Brandon
be, but you know
Williamson
what I
going to be
mean.
out for the whole year, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Brandon
Connor
Williams.
Phillips has been
Yeah.
terrible in the minors. Like,
Right. So like if you have a chance to get who you think is an MLB caliber arm, I think that's a good move. And I think that's the Reds thinking probably is this guy's the best available arm and we like him. So we're going to go with him.
yeah, and I think there's realistic. Like, I think that it's realistic that you could see again. We thought this maybe with Lowder, but and he hasn't worked out. But I think it's realistic if Burns comes and pitches well. I don't think he'll pitch much this year, if at all. I'm guessing they'll probably shut him down. He threw
Right.
100 innings in college this year. But I don't think it's crazy to say you'd see him next year. If not, you'll probably see him in 2026. But you're talking about Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo. You're hoping Lowder continues to develop and he's up there sooner than later. Chase Burns, like that's not even talking about Petty, Connor Phillips, who were all in these discussions last year.
Yep.
And like you said, you can never have enough pitching. I mean, I know people are mad about the offense because it's been bad recently. But if you look over the last 10 years, how bad the Reds pitching has been and the offense has been fine, it's pitching. The pitching has been bad 90% of the time. So I'm with you. You can never have enough arms. Yeah, it would have been awesome to see Condon hit bombs in Major League Baseball, but I'm fine with it. I thought it was crazy the overreaction, but I think that's probably what people were thinking. They just saw a big bopper bat and just wanted that guy.
Yep. And I saw it on X and I think Bryce Spalding I don't know if he tweeted it or retweeted it last night, but it was about um those two, Condon and who's the other outfielder that was up there? Caglione.
Oh yeah, first baseman.
Oh yeah. But they were saying, I forget who it was Condon and somebody else, where they would have put them behind both of last year's top two outfielders. So it's like, okay, let's manage our expectations here a little bit and manage our reactions, and like you said, it's Major League Baseball draft is so different than the NFL or the NBA.
Yeah.
These guys aren't typically, obviously Skeens is an anomaly a little bit, but typically aren't making an impact right away. It's about developing them and what they already have. So I think I have trust in the front office like you do.
Yeah, and I think
do.
one thing too with like pitchers especially, I think you can see a lot more of what they will turn into based on all the analytics and all the data that you get from every pitch a guy throws and like the spin rate and all that crazy stuff. like you have a pretty good idea of this stuff plays. It's about whether he can command it and control it and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm all for it. I think he'll be fine. There's one note I want to pull up from um this guy's somewhere in the front office. I don't remember off. I think he's like their director of development or something like that.
Uh-huh.
He said, we like middle of the field offensive players and starting pitching profiles. That's where we're going to start. And that's where we're going to continue to look. He said, I told you guys once, or I've told you guys, if it's once, it's 1,000 times. We like middle of the field offensive players and starting pitching profiles. And I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
You know, they're going after, which tells you they're going after athletes because athletes are going to play middle of the infield.
Yep.
Middle of the infield guys are hard to get. You can usually find a corner outfield guy. And then starting pitching, like those are the things that are hard to get. And the Reds are kind of just banking on, hey, this is our strategy. This is what we're going to go for in the draft, and we're sticking to it.
I like it. You sent that earlier in a text, and I love that. I'm like you said, middle of the field guys are your athletes, your captains, your high IQ baseball players for the most part. And then you have starting pitching, like we've said multiple times, that is so hard to get. And like perfect example of like corner outfielder you can pick up. I mean, Steer has moved all over the field. You know, he started out as a middle infielder, I think, or what he played some. That's the kind of guy you get when you draft those players, is a guy who can be versatile like that. So I love that philosophy. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving on here, we'll get before we get into some second half predictions. Wanted to talk just briefly. Elly and Hunter Green both made the All-Star game, which is super cool. I mean, MLB I think's tweeted about Elly at the All-Star game about 20 times. We've said it on here before. We can never say it enough. That guy, he is the needle. Like he moves the needle. He is the needle. He's has an electric personality. He's fun to watch play. He just continues to produce. I mean, on a day where the Reds offense was awful all day yesterday, he hit a 2-run home run to tie the game. Just so awesome for him. And then Hunter Green, you have a guy, the Reds fan base just has insane expectations for Hunter Green. And he has, just put his head down and worked. And he's been awesome this year. Everyone's complained about he doesn't go deep enough into games. This year, he continues to go deeper into games. Literally everything you could have asked for Hunter Green. He's starting to become that pitcher. And one thing I don't think people are realizing, like the deal that the Reds signed Hunter Green for, if he continues to pitch like this, is absolutely a ridiculous team deal. So just a really cool story. He got a little bit emotional when David Bell announced he was an all-star. And then we can't forget David Bell is an all-star. David Bell is a well-deserved all-star. I put a field picture on X today that the Reds tweeted out and just put all-stars, and it was the three of them. And some people got really upset. It was kind of funny, just hilarious because I knew what I was doing with that tweet.
Yeah.
But David Bell is an all-star. We can't forget about him. But what are your thoughts? Just Elly being an all-star, Hunter Green being an all-star. Just really cool for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Elly, obviously, I think people, again, at the beginning of the season had way too high of expectations for him. And here he is, an all-star. You know, do I want his batting average to be up? Sure. But he's an all-star for a reason. The guy is incredible, and he's just going to keep getting better. He gets better literally every game, I think, that I watch, and it's really cool. And Hunter Green is just turning into the guy that he's meant to be, like you said, and it's awesome. Every time Hunter Green pitches, I love it because I have great confidence that he's going to go 6 innings. And I know, like you said, 6 innings isn't enough for some people, but it's enough. Especially when we have the bullpen we have. But for those two to make an all-star team this year is really cool. And I think both of them will probably make multiple all-star games throughout their career.
Yeah, you would think so. And then there's two other quick things to think while you were talking about that just made me think of. You have Elly, who's on pace for over 30 home runs and over 90 stolen bases. It's his second year, not even his second full year in the majors. Like, that's absurd. Like, that is ridiculous. He's like second or third in outs above average at shortstop, which if he just made some of the routine plays, would just think how good his outs above average would be. And then Hunter Green, I think one of the cool things about Hunter Green is he had the fastball slider, and that's really all he threw. He threw a changeup a little bit last year that wasn't very good. And now he just comes in the offseason and develops a splitter and throws a curveball a little bit. And like that's been what's really cool to me is like I need another pitch just to be able to like keep guys honest.
Right.
And you can see him getting more confident throughout the year. Like early in the year, he was barely throwing it because that's hard. Like to throw,
Oh
to
yeah.
just come up with a pitch and all of a sudden start throwing it in games against
Uh-huh.
major league hitters. Like that is so hard. And man, the splitter looks better and better and it keeps guys
Yep.
honest. They can't just have a 50% chance to guess the right pitch. Just two really cool things about Elly and Hunter Green, I think.
Yeah. That's a great point about Hunter Green too, is like the splitter has been amazing. That even on the days that like when his slider isn't working as well, he leans on the splitter, which like you said is incredible considering he just developed that pitch in the offseason and has been still developing it throughout the season. And that's really impressive from a major league pitcher to be able to do that during the season.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
like
cool.
it's literally all it is to keep them honest. Like it doesn't even have
Yeah.
to be a great pitch. It's literally
No.
just to be like, okay, I have this. You have to be
Right.
thinking about it in your head. You can't just sit fastball slider.
Right.
So really cool. I'm excited to watch those two. I assume Hunter Green's going to be pitching tomorrow. I haven't seen anything that he's not going to pitch.
Right.
Have you seen anything about that?
No, the only thing I've seen is that Skeens is only pitching 1 inning. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I've seen.
which most guys do. Not many guys go
Yeah.
out there and pitch two. Sometimes you'll have the starter go two.
Right. I
So I
think that's
hope,
why they said that is because sometimes the starter does pitch too,
yeah,
but
I hope Hunter gets a chance to throw. Just
me
just
too.
because you never know when you're going to go back. Elly will play for sure. I hope Elly, the way Elly plays in big stages, I wouldn't be surprised if he just like hits a bomb or hits a triple and just runs. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
he'll do something exciting. I'm excited to watch it. Probably the most excited I've been for an All
Who's
Star game
the
in a while.
starting shortstop? Is it Turner?
Yeah, Trey Turner, because Betts was
Yeah.
hurt. Betts was it, but
Oh yeah.
he's out. So Trey Turner, which I would have loved Elly to get it, but whatever. At least he's there. But that's it for the All-Star game. To wrap it up here, before we go, second half predictions. The Reds are at 47 and 50 right now. So you say second half, they played 97 games. They have 65 more to go. What would you say for the Reds to make the playoffs? How many wins do you think they have to get to at the end of the season? Just a guesstimate, or what are your thoughts?
Man. So they're um hmm. I mean they gotta be, I think to be close, they gotta get to that 94 or no, sorry, I'm thinking halfway. They gotta win 40 more games, I think, is really what they need, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say about 85 wins would
yeah,
get you close. So 87, I'm right with you.
yeah. Win 40 out of the 65. I think that's a pretty good spot to be in, especially, you know, I think we'll start to see a little bit of separation in the National League wild card. Um, we
Yeah, we
should,
talked about it
anyways.
on here before. Like, there's a lot of teams in it right now, but a lot of those teams are going to start tanking. A lot of those
Right.
teams are going to sell at the deadline. There's definitely going to be separation there
Yeah.
because you're at like one thing that people will say like you're 3 games back, but it's really less about how many games you're back than how many teams you have to pass. Because if
Right.
you're 3 games back and there's two teams in front of you 2 games back, well, to get up there, you have to bank on both of those teams losing and you winning, not just one. So it's really about how many teams are above you um,
Right.
in that. But I'm with you. I think they have to probably, you know, be somewhere in 40 to 45 or 40 or 85 to 90, I would say wins.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. 40 and 25, I will say that sounds like a big time
It
second half.
does.
Like that's a big time second half, but
It
the
is.
Reds have been above average since they were
Right.
20 and 30. They've been playing pretty well. So you're hoping they can get some guys back. You're hoping TJ Friedel can stay healthy. You're hoping Matt McClain comes back in probably late August, and maybe can help you out if you're in it at the end. I'm not really banking on that,
Right.
but they've at least given a timetable for his return to go on a rehab assignment, which I think is good news.
Yep.
So I'm with you. I mean, one thing with this pitching, I think when you have good pitching, you're always in games. So
Right.
if the pitching keeps it up, the Reds offense just needs to play a little bit better. And I think with people like Rece Hinds, I think Noel V. Marte, I don't think he can play worse. You would think he's going to just get better and better as he gets more reps.
Yeah. I think
So
he
I'm
just
with you. I
needs
think that's a
to
good
kind of
move.
relax a little bit. No, Elby does. I think he's probably pressing.
Yeah.
Um, I think he probably was right away. How could he not be? You know,
Oh yeah. He
coming off
feels like he
this.
let his team down and he's going to come back to the big league club and he's like, I have to do it
Right,
all right now. He has
right.
the huge game one and then it's been bad. And what tells me he's really pressing is not the issues at the plate, it's the third base issues.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially because he's a good fielder. He actually is over his
right.
career so
And
far. And like,
he has like the yips over there, which
yeah,
tells you everything you need to know.
right.
So
But like you said, the pitching is going to take. I think that I actually have confidence in the Reds because of the pitching. And you look at playoff teams in the past and over history of baseball, it's because they have good pitching most of the time. I mean, the Reds in 2020, they made the playoffs because they had good pitching.
yeah.
And so I think lean on that and hopefully the offense kind of keeps this hot streak up and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, home run derby is tonight. I'm going to go enjoy the home run derby, probably play some NCAA football. Haven't gotten to play yet today.
It's pretty
Got home
sweet.
late from a work meeting, so I know you have that as well. So we will have fantastic night. The Reds play the Nationals on Friday. So we will come back to you probably next Monday. Just recapping the quick series, recapping the All-Star game. Hopefully Elly hits a bomb. Hopefully Hunter Green strikes out the side, and we're
Yeah.
talking all positive things on the Reds. But as always, thank you guys for joining. If you made it this far, comment, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We'll see you next week.